Are you thinking about moving to Brooklyn Heights, Brooklyn in New York City? You're probably thinking, Jeff, that's not a suburb, it's in New York City. Yes, but it was actually considered America's first suburb, and we'll talk about that more later. But we are walking down the Promenade right now, and as you can see behind me, you've got downtown Manhattan and the Brooklyn Bridge in the distance. And right behind me here is Brooklyn Bridge Park, and it's just a wonderful collection of piers that has lots of different sporting activities, and also just like general nice places to relax. And we're going to learn more about Brooklyn Heights today on the tour, so definitely stick around. Let's get after it. Hey, if this is your first visit to the channel and you're looking to learn everything there is to know about the Midtown direct suburbs of New York City, then subscribe below and tap the notification bell so you can be the first to hear about the current market conditions here in New York and New Jersey. Hey, I'm Jeff. The team and I, we get calls every day from people just like you who are thinking about moving to one of New York City's amazing suburbs, and we love it. So whether you're moving in 7 days or 7 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email so we can help you find the perfect place. So as you see, we are here in Brooklyn Heights, Brooklyn, and Brooklyn's a really amazing place. It was one of the first New York City landmark districts, and the population here is about 25,000 people, and it's a very small area of land. It's just about 1/3 of a square mile. So when you divide that out, that gives you about 78,000 per square mile in density. Now obviously there isn't 78,000, but just to show you how compact it is, a very small area compared to some of the areas that we've seen in New Jersey where you've got 20,000 people over multiple square miles. So just an interesting side note there. Now what I was going to say is where we are located is obviously you've got downtown Manhattan right there, and just above us to the north you've got Dumbo. If you were to go west, you've got downtown Brooklyn, and if you were to go south, you've got Cobble Hill, and a little bit of southeast, you've got Borum Hill. But in general, Brooklyn Heights, really exciting place with lots of history, which we're going to explore in the video today. We're going to show you some of the landmarks, some of the amazing food that's here, and like I said, some really rich history. You can see some cool houses here behind me that face this amazing view. And we're gonna go down to the park, check out some of that stuff. We're gonna talk real estate and get you as much information as you can about Brooklyn Heights to see if it's interesting to you. And stick around to the end of the video. I'm gonna link to another video of a 1-bedroom apartment that we're gonna see. It's listed for $650. Definitely something cool to check out to show you what some of the smaller scale units are going for in the area. And that was recently renovated, so it's got some cool architectural styling going on. So let's jump into it and check out some more about Brooklyn Heights. We're over here in Brooklyn Bridge Park. We're just walking up one of the paths. You can see there's some beautiful views here of the downtown area and Brooklyn Bridge. We're up by that old Fulton Street at the top of Brooklyn Heights, where you've got some great restaurants. You've got Grimaldi's Pizza. It's not the original location, but you still get the flavor there. Giuliana's is right next door. There's a really great Mexican place, Gran Electronica, over there as well. Shake Shack's down here. You've got the River Cafe, which is right on the water, the beautiful view of the city. And then you've also got the ferry terminals here. Those are the original ferry terminals. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's where the ferries would have landed. When there was no bridge, they would have gone back and forth on ferry in that area. And I'm just walking through the Brooklyn Bridge Park. You've got a couple different piers in the park. This one is more for relaxation. It's more of a sort of sculpted park, whereas the other piers are sort of like sport related. One has a soccer field, the other has different types of courts and like sort of like roller hockey, that kind of stuff. So we're just over here on the sort of south facing lawn that has, sometimes they set up like movie theaters here for outdoor summer movies. You can see the Statue of Liberty in the distance. And behind me is one Brooklyn Bridge hotel, which is really cool. You can stay there, have an amazing view of the city. Just another thing to point out here, you've got the Staten Island ferry coming across, and some just beautiful fall foliage going on here right now. You've got some really nice condos that are sort of at the western border. You can sort of see them through the trees. I'll show some B-roll. These are amazing condos with views. A lot of them are duplexes. Those are really cool views there. We're gonna head over to one of the little bridges that connects us back over to Brooklyn Heights and show you what's over there. So we're over here at Squibb Bridge, which is really neat because it crosses over the BQE, which you'll see in a second. You can see that condo I was telling you about behind me, and it goes in two parts. You've got this half, the hotel, and then the bridge goes between the two halves. We'll see the highway in a second, but really cool apartments and duplexes, amazing terraces. You can see here some of the terraces that look out towards the west. You get amazing sunsets, views of the city. You've got One World Trade Center, the Frank Gehry building, Brooklyn Bridge obviously. Pier 2 is one of the sports piers that I was telling you about that's right across, and actually we can kind of see into their apartments and amazing windows on the side. And you can see actually they designed it so that there's some amenities for the park. You get the restrooms there, you've got parking down there, and then this park is part of Brooklyn Heights where you've got it used to be like a sports park, but I guess they've kind of simplified it now. Really pretty location. You can see each half of the building has a totally different style. So this is clad in like a sort of a coppery metal panel. You can see right down there's the Verrazano Bridge in the distance. If we pan over, you can see not only the Brooklyn Bridge, but also the Manhattan Bridge. You can see that little, what looks like a lighthouse down there. That's actually Brooklyn ice cream. That's a really nice spot to check out. They've got really good ice cream there. Obviously, Robert Moses' famous triple cantilevered highway system there with the Promenade on top. We're gonna head over to the Promenade right now, but I just wanted to show you Pier House, 130 Pier House. But in general, Squibb Bridge, really cool. You can actually kind of feel it bouncing, which is really interesting. They had to close it down for a little while because it was bouncing too much, but really cool bridge, and it's amazing how it snakes through and connects the park with Brooklyn Heights. So let's go see some more. As I was saying, Brooklyn Heights is a very historic area, and as such, in 1966, the U.S. National Register of Historic Places added it to its list, and in 1978, it was New York City's first landmark district. You can see by this sign behind me, and I'm approaching a really interesting piece of history here in Brooklyn Heights, which is, you can see this is Columbia Heights and Orange Street, and right behind me they put this green sign. It says Emily Warren Roebling, and the reason why this is here is because her husband and her husband was Washington Roebling. They lived at a townhouse that was at this location in the mid to late 1800s. Now, Washington Roebling's father was the designer of the Brooklyn Bridge, and the Brooklyn Bridge is just down that way, probably less than a quarter of a mile. And he died pretty early on in the construction of the bridge. He had an injury at the landing where we were before, and refused medical treatment and eventually died from that quite quickly. His son, Washington Roebling, took over overseeing the construction. So you're probably asking, where does Emily come in on this? Well, his son Washington was overseeing the construction, and a lot of it started with building the towers. And to build the towers, they had to build foundations, which were down in the water. And they built these things called caissons, and they would kind of pressurize these things and dig down into the dirt to build a foundation for the tower of the bridge. And what they didn't know was when they would come up, they would get sick, and it was called caisson disease back then. Now it's referred to as the bends. You've probably heard that term before. So Washington got very sick from this process, and he basically became bedridden. So Emily took over and would become the oversight of the construction. She would go down to the bridge, take notes, and make drawings and so on, and listen to the construction people down there, and then report that back to Washington, who was basically in bed. Essentially, that was what made her so important and so critical into the completion of the bridge in the late 1800s. So just so much history going on here. but this area is just chock full. And then on top of that, you have these amazing views of downtown New York. If you can imagine, at that time, before the bridge was built, the tallest building in downtown would have been Trinity Church. So this would have been like truly the suburbs, because that would have been the city. You have the water in between, and then this was being developed by Pierpont in the sort of early to mid 1800s. This 60-acre tract of land that was being built up. So, like I said, just chock full of history and interesting architectural design and development through that period. So we're gonna take a tour down Orange Street and show you Plymouth Church in a second, but while we're standing here, just check out the beautiful townhomes that line Columbia Heights. The back of these are facing that promenade that I was telling you about. These are some newer buildings that were built over the years before the historic changes. But check out these details. Amazing stuff. All right, let's keep going. So as we're walking along here on the promenade, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about real estate in the area. So in Brooklyn versus other areas that we've covered, you've got a couple different types of ownership. You've got condos, co-ops, and townhouses. So co-ops are a little bit different. They're more of a leasehold type of ownership versus condos are sort of a fee simple ownership like a townhouse or a regular house. Now, if we were to break down the ownership in terms of like sort of average price points per ownership type, you've got co-ops are averaging about 1.2 million in the last 12 months. Condos more than double that, 2.6 million, and townhouses 7 million average townhouse. You can see some of the ones behind me that face this western view. You can imagine what the price point would be for those. Now, if we're looking at ownership type by square footage, so for co-ops, there's an average of 1,132 per square foot. That's across the last 12 months. And condos are going for about 1,488 a square foot. Again, the average across the last 12 months. Townhouses are 1,600 per square foot. Now that number is a little iffy because townhouses don't always have accurate square footages, and you don't know if they're including the basement. You could assume they're not including the basement if it's that high, but again, you've got these amazing townhouses here that face with these amazing views, but there's not a lot of them, so there's a lot of competition, and you've got this amazing proximity to the city. You've got the AC, the 4-5, the 2-3, and the R train that can get you in really quickly into the city. And you might remember from Billions, the show Billions, Paul Giamatti's character, the AG, the Attorney General, he lived in one of the Brooklyn Heights brownstones. So it just goes to show you how sort of popularized that's become. So if you go by bedroom size, you've got, and this is mixed between co-ops and condos, so it's a little mixed. Studios, 760,000 in the last 12 months average. One bedrooms, 838,000. Two bedrooms, 1.65 million. 3 bedrooms, 2.7 million, and over 4 and over, big jump, 4.6 million. So you can see very expensive area to get into, and again, look at the view, look at the amenities that you have in this area. So cool. Check out this helicopter behind me. You've probably heard a lot about the famous Brooklyn brownstone, but this is actually another interesting typology. This is a carriage house. You can see there's this large door here. That's actually where horses would have been kept for some of these big fancy brownstones. Now, these have been converted into modern apartments and townhomes for multi-million dollars. Very cool piece of architectural history, and you can see very simple but elegantly styled and really nice stuff. So behind me is Plymouth Church. This was the church of Henry Ward Beecher, who was a famous abolitionist, and he preached here. And the reason why I'm showing is just to, again, enhance and sort of highlight the historical significance of a lot of Brooklyn Heights. You'll see there's a rock down by the waterfront that commemorates one of George Washington's sort of embarking across the river, part of the Revolutionary War. There's a lot of Revolutionary War in Brooklyn in general, and especially Brooklyn Heights. Sort of parallels back to some of the communities we've seen in New Jersey, Morristown and Chatham. Again, lots of George Washington connections, but overall just the history here when you're walking around, it's just, you just feel it. It's just in the bones, it's in the architecture, and you can see it, some of the homes here. This home here would have been a wood frame, or is a wood frame construction. So this would be a very, very early date of construction, and definitely landmark. So if they were to ever try and do any work on that, they'd have a lot of hoops to jump through in terms of historical sort of detailing and so on. This is actually a new building right here in the corner. It became sort of like a movie theater, but they did get permission to knock it down, so the bottom part's sort of older and then the top part's new. So we just landed on Henry Street. Clark Street's just up there where you've got the 2-3 train, and there's really cool restaurants on here on Henry Street. You've got Henry's End. Down the block you've got Noodle Pudding, which is an awesome restaurant for Italian food. Henry's Ale House, and there's a really good diner up at Clark, some pizza. But this is sort of your northern Brooklyn Heights destination for food. You've got Montague Street in the middle that has lots of shops and restaurants that goes east-west. And then at the end of the tour, we're gonna stop by Atlantic Avenue, which has a lot of restaurants and shops. But over here, really cool architecture, and like I said, the history, just dating back to the 1800s. On the other side of this new building, behind me, you've got the AC train. So again, Midtown Direct, doesn't get any more Midtown Direct than an express train right into downtown and then Midtown. You can get in very quickly. So let's keep moving. Avenue here. This is the southernmost border of Brooklyn Heights, and that's across the street here. Going that way to the north is Brooklyn Heights. You've got some amazing shops and restaurants here. You've got Trader Joe's on the corner. Technically that's in Cobble Hill. You've got Sahadi's across the street. And then if you go up Court Street heading towards Cadman Plaza, you've got lots of cool shops and restaurants there. There's the Taqueria. There's the cinema. You've got a whole full-size commercial movie theater there, and then that goes up to where we started the tour at Old Fulton Street, all the way at the top. So we just kind of made a big circle around Brooklyn Heights, stopped a little bit on Montague to show you some stuff there. I'll show some B-roll as we're walking on Montague. You've also got on this side where we've got Cobble Hill, you've got Urban Outfitters. This is a really good produce stand across the street. They've got a really good selection. I used to go there when I actually used to live down the street. And then Key Food here on the corner. Just a lot of awesome shops and restaurants. Lots of pizza, different types of cuisine. You got Hanko's. Oh, I forgot Hanko's up on Montague. That's nice Vietnamese food there. Really good Subs of NYC. So this is the corner of Clinton, and Clinton goes all the way north. This is a great place to catch a cab on your way into the city because they're headed back to the Brooklyn Bridge this way. And yeah, so that's the southernmost border of Brooklyn Heights. As we go that way, we're going into Cobble Hill, and you can see just beautiful context here in Brooklyn Heights. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed your tour of Brooklyn Heights today, America's first suburb. If you want to check out more, I've got another video coming up. We're going to tour a one-bedroom, actually, right in this building. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.